All right, Chris Popper here in Bangor, Matt Haney down in Bar Harbor, and we want to check in with you. I see you've got your main principal's plaque and your gavel behind you. You just to see how things are going, and there is going to be a change in the way school is being conducted. Not everybody, don't panic. We're not going virtual all the time or anything like that, but you had a very ambitious plan of kids going to school every day. But because of the bus schedule and the transportation issues, it's just hasn't been as feasible as you wanted it to be.
Yes, the logistics of the plan that we have in place right now are pretty significant, and I'm still glad we did it this way to start, because what it does is it gets everybody, well, most students, it gets them here 4 days a week, which is nice to touch base and have every day be at least partially in-person day, and it also, as far as virus transmission, it limits. Because students are only here 2 hours a day, and they just come in, they get off the bus or out of their car, they go to their class, go to their next class, and go home. Not a lot of time where they're really with anybody other than the students in their class or their teacher, which is good and bad. That definitely limits the interactions, limits the exposure, and it also limits the non-academic part of school, which is really important, actually. The time that they get to spend with their friends, the time they get to talk to their teachers outside of class, or their coaches, or somebody else that they may need to touch base with that's important to them. They just don't have any chance to do that in this schedule. So that's part of the reason for a change, and just the bus transportation in particular, and the transportation in general. Even if you have your own car and drive here, if you're driving from more than 5 miles away, hard to be in your Block B class, whether that's online or in person, and then have lunch, and then be in your Block C class. A lot of people are having a hard time getting lunch in, and that's if they're lucky enough to have any break at all. Sometimes students from further away places are actually either having to leave their Block B class early or get to the Block C class later, or both, and that is not sustainable.
Right. It was a great plan. But it's like that every science experiment. Sometimes you have to make modifications to get the end result.
Right, and that's the thing that is particularly new about this scenario that we're living in, this bizarre new world, is that we don't really, we're going places we've never gone before, and we have to be flexible enough to say, whoa, that didn't work. And I really appreciate so many people have been very patient, very understanding, very graceful with us when we say, oh, wait a minute, we didn't think of that, or whoops, this isn't working, or, well, I know you've just settled in and now we're going to. That's really irritating for us to be doing to people. I get that. And I also just so appreciate how many people have said, gosh, I know how hard what you're doing must be, and this is what it means to us, and this is really hard for us, and I know you're doing your best, and thank you for thinking about it. And we really like getting, it's nice to get the nice comments, and it's also nice to get the feedback in that form that, I don't know if you've thought of this, because we may not have thought of it. So please, definitely, people, if there's some unintended consequence of a decision that we've made somehow, let us know. We want to know what it means for you or for your student if you happen to have somebody here.
I was laughing when you were talking, because it feels like a Star Trek episode where we're boldly going where no man has gone before, because that's really what this has all been. Everybody's gamed everything out over the summer and in the early fall, but everything just keeps changing.
It does, and it's all these things that keep changing, like the some things you can predict, some things you can be completely surprised by. And it's also interesting to remember how many times recently I've said, or somebody else has said, well, gee, that was obvious. What were we thinking when we missed that, or how come we did this? And there's so many things that are obvious once you've said them out loud, or somebody else has thought of them. That's like, oh, wow. So there is no idea that it's just like, well, I must have thought of that because that's so obvious, because it's just so new and so diverse, and things affect people different ways. It really is, like you say, it is bizarre and new, and it's like the first year of being a principal, the first year of teaching again for all of us.
Yeah, it's they, those veteran teachers may have it a little, or normally had it a little bit easier because they could recycle lesson plans. They could, well, I've taught this unit, so let me make some modifications here, modifications there. But this is just all brand new.
It is all brand new, and they've worked really hard they're modifying not only how they're teaching, and on top of that, what they're teaching, because there's a smaller window of time. We have 4 class periods a week instead of 5. The class periods are a little shorter than they typically are, and in the new way of doing it, it's just simply not going to be as time efficient as it would be. So they really are boiling down. Sure, they can use some of the things that they've done in the past, but they still have to do it differently, and they still have to do it either more as students working independently outside of class, or just say, you know what, that's not going to be a priority that we're going to get to this year.
The one thing that I've been impressed, I mean, I've been down there for broadcasting some of the sporting events and doing picture day and things like that, is just how flexible the kids are, and how, I'm going to keep my mask on, and a lot of them are reticent to even take it off because they're so used to wearing them now.
Sometimes you forget you have it on, and I will agree with you. The people who have been the very, very best are the students themselves, and I think that probably can be attributed to students are generally more adaptable, more flexible than adults. They also are just, gosh, they're so kind and thankful to be here for the most part. Gosh, not even for the most part. It's just the level of pleasantness. I don't even know if that's an actual word, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
It's just, and gratitude. It's really, really nice. And like you say, the students are leading that way, and it makes it awful easy to be around them when we're struggling to try to do things like we talked about. The students are giving us the leeway, just like their families are.
And it's so funny because, back in July and August, when everybody was planning for the resumption of school, everybody was like, oh my God, how are we going to keep these kids to have their mask on? All it's going to be is put your mask on, keep your fingers away from your face, put your mask back on. And it's just not that case, really, 99% of the time.
Yes, that's true here, and I still have the opportunity to meet with different groups of principals across. Universally, that's what people are saying, is the students are being so good about this. Not just about masks and distance and clean hands and watching your health and all that. Regular behaviors. I was in a meeting yesterday with, I think it was about 12 other high school principals, and literally every single one of them said, we haven't had a traditional sort of discipline problem. We have not had one. In the, 8 weeks of school? It's just, the students are the best thing about this place, for sure.
Oh, no doubt. We've seen great flexibility with the music department, with the theater department, with the athletic department. I know that there's been a lot of work done outside. What are plans now? I mean, and knock on wood, I mean, it's like 60 degrees in October today, and the sun's shining, at least here in Bangor. I mean, and we wish that it would stay like this, but we do know that cold air is coming, and what are plans now as you are going to have to button up the building a little bit, but still try and maintain airflow?
I mean, I think for the most part, we can continue to maintain the airflow inside the building. We can keep windows open. I mean, what that will mean, unfortunately, is using more number 2 heating oil, which is, it's an expense, and it's also an increased amount of use of the resource, which is, comes with lots of consequences. But it is what we've got to keep the windows open and keep air moving. We'll ask people, make sure you bring a sweater to school or whatever, or Funky's got lots of MDI gear around for people.
Well, it's the one thing it's going to do is probably stop kids from wearing shorts in December.
I don't think it will, because there's a number of them. It doesn't matter. I mean, they go outside like that, so I don't know why they'd worry about being cold in a classroom that way.
Right. It always amazes me when I come down there and people are in shorts and I'm buttoned up like I've just come in from the great Iditarod race, and they're in shorts and flip flops and sandals, and it's like, oh, okay.
Got to do you, I guess.
Yeah.
That's that. I'm not afraid to put on an extra layer, but
Right. So, but are there any concerns that you have? Is there anything that you want to get out to parents as we as we enter almost the second quarter?
Yeah, we have after this, we only have one more week in the first quarter. I think the most important message is just to pay attention. We're going to start sending out the details on the switch. I mean, families and students have the basics of the new schedule, and I'm going to be sending details. And please ask for questions. Ask the questions you have, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. And we'll either answer them or say, like I said before, whoops, hadn't thought about that. Thank you for that. Let me get back to you.
Wednesday's going to stay that kind of special day. Yes. for specials and shop and music and art. Yes. And all that.
As long as it's a 5-day week, we'll continue with that. And I just to get back what you said a minute ago about music. Yesterday, I was sitting in my office, and people who know where that is, it's right. It faces out over the parking lot in the stadium field. And yesterday, I could listen to the band. They were all spread out in the bleachers out there playing all the pep songs for the first time, because they've been doing individual lessons for the first time. Yeah. They were together, and that was nice to hear. But the other thing that I'd want people to know is that if the beginning of the second quarter is the first time for people to switch, if they have been fully remote for the first quarter,
right?
If they want to come back, they need to let us know, ideally by tomorrow, but as soon as possible, and they should get that information to their student's guidance counselor.
Okay, and because it not only impacts classroom size and where classes are held, but also transportation. I mean, if they're going on the bus, then that's a whole separate.
Yes, we need to know who's getting on the bus. We need our buses, as far as capacity goes, none of the buses are approaching the capacity, but we do need to know who's on the bus, just in case there's a circumstance that someone on that bus tests positive. We need to know who was on the bus. So
right.
That definitely helps. I mean, not that we can figure it out, but if we have clear lists ahead of time, it'll be much easier and quicker to figure out.
Right. And, we have seen the case with that one individual that's associated with Ellsworth and Hancock County Technical Center. So, and that contact tracing is so important.
Well, that's how the contact tracing is how you keep your area from becoming a hotspot. Right. So it's really important for us to be prepared for that, if and when we do have a student or a faculty member who tests positive. We have our protocols, and then of course we are refining them and learning from as other people go through it, just so we can get that right. So we can keep every case is a serious situation, and we want to be able to minimize that to keep it from being an outbreak.
I know that the school has offered flu shots because, I mean, that's so important, especially this year. Keep everybody safe is, you don't want someone to come down with a flu and then have that be confused with COVID-19 or mask symptoms, or so, let's just deal with COVID-19 and try and put away concerns about the flu.
Yes, we have had both a student and an adult flu clinic here over the last couple of weeks. And because, yeah, I think that's one of the things Dr. Shaw has said pretty consistently is he is clearly advocating for people to get flu shots.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad enough to deal with one or the other. You don't want to. It's like having one child and then going to three children. You're outnumbered. So I mean,
Right.
2-on-2 is good, but when you go to three, you're outnumbered, and it's just a whole different scenario. Anything that I've missed that you want to add? Any shout outs in particular, or just to everyone that's done just such a great job?
Yeah, and not in particular, other than just like I said before, it's been so since the last time we talked. I don't think the students had been back yet the last time we talked, and how incredible it's been to see them here. And I'm looking forward to when they're here for the full days. So I get to see them more than just when they're walking from their class to their class. It's even when they're here, it's pretty empty right now. So I'm looking forward to it, and thank you to them and to their families who are doing such a good job of supporting us and keeping them safe, and just reminding high school students in particular that just the rules that we have in school are here to keep each other safe. And it's important that when they're not in school that they're keeping some of those same practices, keeping their distance from each other and wearing their masks when they're together, making sure you wash your hands and stay home if you're feeling sick, and those types of things. That's not just school rules, that's just kind of life rules right now.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I came down to broadcast, I mean, Dan Vibert gave me my own little jar of hand sanitizer and said, "You are to keep this with you at all times." And I'm like, "Yes, Dan,
Yes.
I will." But I mean, that's just where we are, and it's like I just posted rules for ledge lawn trick or treating, and it's like sanitize your hands as you go from house to house. I mean, it's just, it is what it is now. So
Yes. Yep.
we're
That's the world we live in these days, and we're making our way forward.
all right. Matt, I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah.
Have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Chris.